The sky was dark, filled with clouds, and the forest below was silent. Suddenly, a loud boom shook the night, and a burning object fell from the sky. It crashed into the forest with fire and smoke all around. Trees broke, birds flew away, and animals ran in fear. From the wreckage, something moved. A girl, not human, crawled out of the broken ship. Her skin was silver blue, her eyes glowed like stars, and her arms were covered in cuts and burns. She looked fierce, dangerous. Like a wild beast, she tried to stand, but her leg was hurt. Blood, thick and black, dripped from her side. She growled in pain. Looking around the forest like a hunted animal, she didn't belong here. This was not her world. Far away, a young man named Liam was walking through the forest. He liked being alone in nature, away from the noise of the town. He was quiet, calm, and carried a small backpack with a flashlight and water bottle. When he heard the explosion, he stopped. He saw a flash of fire through the trees. At first, he thought it was a plane crash, but as he got closer, he saw strange metal, glowing lights, and smoke. Then he saw her, the alien girl, half buried under the wreckage. Liam's heart raced. She looked like something from a science fiction movie, but her face, though angry and full of pain, was also scared. She wasn't attacking, she was trying to survive. He stepped forward slowly, hands up. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The alien girl hissed, trying to stand, but fell again. Her eyes were sharp, but they were also tired. Liam saw the wound on her side deepen. Bleeding, he took out a cloth from his bag and knelt beside her. She tried to push him away, but her strength was gone. "I can help," he whispered. "Let me." She watched him, confused. No one had ever helped her before. Where she came from, only the strong survived. And kindness was weakness. But this human boy, he looked different. He didn't fear her, didn't try to kill her. He cleaned her wound carefully, using water and cloth. The pain made her flinch, but she stayed still. Minutes passed, and her breathing slowed. She was cold, weak, but something inside her felt calm. She looked at Liam again. His face was soft, kind, worried. Her vision blurred, and everything turned dark. Liam caught her before she fell. She was heavier than she looked, but he managed. He looked around. This place was not safe. If someone else saw her, they might hurt her. He decided to take her to his cabin. It was an old wooden house deep in the forest. No one lived nearby, and he had medical supplies there. He lifted her carefully and began walking, step by step. Forest was quiet again, only the sound of Liam's footsteps and the wind in the trees. The alien girl, fierce and wounded, slept in his arms. She didn't know this human, but her body didn't fight anymore. Something had changed, and it began the moment he reached out his hand. By the time Liam reached his cabin, the night was deep. He laid her on the bed, covered her with a blanket. He checked her pulse. It was slow but steady. Then he sat nearby watching her sleep. So many questions ran through his mind. Who was she? Where did she come from? Why was she here? But one thing was clear. She was alive, and now she was in his care. In the wreckage, far behind them, something beeped. A red light blinked on a small device, sending a signal into space. Someone or something now knew she was on Earth, and they were coming. Asterisk. The alien girl woke to the sound of birds. Not alarms. She blinked slowly, staring at a wooden ceiling, not a steel one. The air smelled of earth and rain, not fire and smoke. Her fingers curled against soft cloth, not cold. Metal floors. Panic hit her heart like a lightning strike. Where was she? Who touched her? Was she captured? She sat up fast, growling low, ready to strike. Pain shot through her side. The wound was still there, bandaged but deep. Her eyes scanned the room. It was small, human-made, filled with strange things. Books, a mirror, a chair with clothes on it. Her senses picked up movement outside the door. She crouched, teeth bared, hands ready to attack. The door creaked open. Liam stepped in, holding a bowl of soup and some bread. He froze when he saw her awake, alert and wild like a cornered animal. Their eyes met, and the room filled with silence thick like fog. She didn't speak, only growled. Liam slowly placed the bowl on a small table, raising his hands in peace. "I'm not your enemy," he said softly. "I helped you." She narrowed her glowing eyes. Not trusting him, not yet. Liam stepped back and sat down across the room. "I found you in the woods," he added. "You were hurt." He didn't ask for thanks, didn't look scared. He just waited, watching her like one watches a lightning storm, dangerous, but beautiful. The girl slowly touched her side where the bandage wrapped around her ribs. It was done by human. Hands careful, not cruel. She didn't know how to feel. On her planet, pain meant weakness, and weakness meant punishment. But here, pain brought help. She looked at the soup, then back at Liam, still watching him. She picked up the spoon. Awkwardly, she had seen humans eat before, but never done it herself. The soup was warm, salty. Strange, but her stomach welcomed it. Liam smiled a little. "Good," he said, nodding. He reached for a small notebook and drew a simple figure, a stick figure of her, with wings, and another of him. He pointed. "You, then me." Then drew a small heart between them. The alien girl tilted her head, confused. He flipped the page and drew again, her wounded, and him helping. This time, her eyes softened, just slightly. She understood pictures better than words, and pictures didn't lie. She pointed to herself and said, with a rough voice, "Arixa." Liam's eyes lit up. "Arixa," he repeated gently. Then he pointed to himself. "Liam." Arixa blinked. Memorizing the name like it was a code, hours passed, and the tension in the room slowly faded. Arixa rested again, her body weak, but her mind restless. She dreamed of the Zarthic Empire, cold, cruel, full of voices that ordered and never asked. She had been made for war, trained to obey, never to trust. But this place, this strange human shelter, felt different, quiet, warm, slow, too. Slow, maybe. Could this be a trick? Or was this the first time someone truly cared if she lived? Outside, Liam fixed the radio on his porch. He didn't know much about her, where she came from, what she had done, but he had seen pain in her eyes, the kind only someone who has suffered carries. He didn't need to understand her language to know she needed peace. Back inside, Arixa explored the room silently. She found a mirror and looked at her reflection. For the first time, she didn't see a weapon. She saw a girl, tired, scared, but alive suddenly. A sharp sound came from the forest. A faint buzzing, mechanical, unnatural. Arixa turned toward the window, her warrior instincts awake again. Her eyes narrowed as she spotted a dark shape flying between the trees. A drone. Not human-made. It was scanning the ground, searching. She backed away from the glass and whispered, "They found me." Her past had arrived, and it was hunting her still. Liam entered, noticing her fear. "What is it?" he asked, but she didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed a pencil from the table and drew in his notebook. A circle, a black ship, and an explosion. Then she pointed outside, and her face turned cold again. The beast within her had not left. It was only resting. Now it was waking up, and Earth was no longer a safe place. The stars above the forest looked peaceful, but inside Arixa's mind, war was waking again. She stood outside the cabin under the moonlight, her eyes fixed on the sky. The wind touched her silver blue skin, but she didn't feel cold. She felt. Watched, somewhere far in the shadows, a drone moved, slow and silent. Its red light blinked once, then vanished. The Zarthic were coming. They had found her signal, and they never left survivors behind. Liam stepped beside her, holding a blanket. "You okay?" he asked softly. Arixa didn't answer. She was hearing a voice from her memories, cold, strict, deadly. "Unit ARX-19. The voice echoed in her mind. "You were born for destruction, not freedom." She closed her eyes, remembering metal halls, burning skies, and endless training. The Zarthic had taken her from birth, changed her body, erased her kindness. They built her into a weapon, not a girl. But now, that weapon was broken, and something new had begun to grow, something fragile, like trust, inside the cabin. Liam showed her a photo, a girl smiling next to him holding a dog. She was my sister, Liam said. She died in an accident 2 years ago. Arixa looked at the photo, then at him, confused by the sadness in his voice. She saved me once, he whispered. Now I try to do the same for others. Arixa didn't fully understand, but she recognized one thing, pain, and pain was a language they both spoke. She pointed to the photo, then to herself, like, her. She asked in broken words. Liam smiled. No, he said. You're stronger. That word, stronger, echoed in her chest like thunder. She had always been strong, but now it felt different. It wasn't the strength to destroy. It was the strength to protect. That night, Arixa dreamed again, not of war, but of running, not from enemies, but towards something unknown, a home, maybe, a place where no one called her ARX-19. The next morning, the forest felt wrong. Too quiet, too still, even the birds had vanished. Arixa stepped outside first, eyes sharp, every sense alert. Then she saw it, in the distance, on the trees, small burn marks, circular, fresh. Zarthuk drones had landed nearby. Liam joined her, carrying binoculars, but before he could speak, she said one word, run. But Liam didn't run. I won't leave you, he said. She turned to him, her eyes glowing bright with fear and frustration. They find me, they kill you, she growled. Then we stop them, he replied, his voice calm. He pulled out a dusty box from under his porch. Old hunting gear, wires, traps, even fireworks. Arixa raised an eyebrow, confused. You fight ... with lights? She asked. Liam grinned. Humans fight with tricks. She smirked slightly. Maybe there was more to Earth than trees and kindness. That night, they set up traps around the forest. Wires tied between trees, tin cans filled with rocks to make noise. Arixa climbed a tree and waited, eyes glowing like a panther in the dark. Hours passed, then a high-pitched buzz filled the air. 3 Zarthuk drones entered the forest. Floating low, scanning the ground, they didn't speak. They never spoke, only hunted. One hit a wire and triggered a trap. A small explosion lit up the trees, and the drone spiraled, crashing into the dirt. Arixa leapt down with speed no human could match. Her hands moved like blades, slicing the second drone in half. Liam handled the third one with a homemade firebomb. The blast pushed him backward, but the drone fell, twitching. Smoke filled the air, and silence followed. They had won the first fight, but it wasn't victory. It was a warning. Because one drone escaped, damaged but still flying. And it carried Arixa's image, her location, and a message. The Zarthuk now knew exactly where she was, and Earth was marked on their map. Back inside the cabin, Arixa looked at Liam. You still want me here? She asked. He nodded. Yes. She looked down, unsure of what to say, then quietly whispered, then I stay, but in her heart. She knew the forest would not stay peaceful, and the boy who saved her had just become a target too. Asterisk. The forest didn't breathe that night. Even the wind stood still, like it was afraid of what was coming. The stars above were hidden by clouds, and the moonlight was pale and cold. Something was watching, moving, hunting. Arixa sat on the rooftop of Liam's cabin, unmoving like a statue. Her sharp eyes scanned the darkness, her hands clutching a metal rod Liam had sharpened into a blade. Her ears twitched at every small sound, a falling leaf, a snapping twig, the distant hum of machines. Liam was inside, setting traps one last time. He had covered the windows with blankets, scattered noisemakers around the clearing. He checked the old shotgun hanging above his fireplace, wiped the dust off, and loaded it with shaking hands. This wasn't a movie now, it was real. At exactly midnight, the sky flashed red. A ship, small but fast, pierced through the clouds and hovered above the trees. It didn't land, just dropped something. 3 dark drones, round and sharp, fell silently like shadows. Arixa saw them first. "They are here," she said quietly through the radio Liam gave her. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were full of fire. The drones moved quickly, scanning the ground with red lights. They spoke no words, made no sound, only followed orders. One flew near the cabin. Detecting the heat of a human, it aimed. A small cannon at the front door, ready to destroy. Before it could fire, a sharp metal spike hit it from above. Arixa dropped from the roof, landing hard and slashing the drone in half with her blade. The pieces fell, sparking and twitching, but the others were already turning toward her. Inside, Liam heard the crash, grabbed the shotgun, and ran outside. Arixa was dodging laser blasts, moving faster than any human could follow. She rolled, jumped, and struck, but there were too many. She needed help. "Liam, left side," she shouted. He aimed at the second drone, fired, and it cracked open. Like glass, smoke exploded. The machine screamed, and metal rained over the trees. For a moment, the night lit up like fire. The third drone circled above, faster and smarter. It scanned both targets, the alien and the human, and prepared. A missile. Arixa's eyes widened. "Missile!" she shouted. "Run!" But Liam didn't run. Instead, he lit one of his fireworks and launched it straight at the drone. The blast made the missile explode midair, shaking the trees and breaking windows. The drone spun out of control, but it wasn't destroyed. It rushed toward Liam, weapons charging. Before it could reach him, Arixa leapt between them, slamming her blade through its core. It exploded, sending her flying backward. She hit the ground hard, groaning in pain. Liam ran to her, lifting her head gently. "You okay?" he whispered, panic in his voice. Arixa opened one eye, smiled weakly, and said, "Better than drone." The smoke faded. The forest went still again. 3 drones destroyed, 1 fierce girl bleeding, and a human boy shaking but standing. They had won, but this was not the end, only the beginning. Inside the cabin, Liam wrapped Arixa's wounds again. "You're not just strong," he said. "You're unstoppable." Arixa looked at him, her voice soft. "We are." She wasn't alone anymore. For the first time in her life, someone fought beside her, not against her. It felt strange. It felt powerful. She looked around the cabin, the tools, the books, the photos, all things that made this place feel like home. She had never had one before. Now she didn't want to lose it. Far above, in the black space beyond the clouds, a much larger ship moved quietly. The Zarthik had seen the battle, received the signals, recorded the failure. They would not send drones next time. They would send soldiers, and they would burn the forest to find her. It was the first morning Arixa woke without fear. No alarms, no pain, no orders in her ear. Only soft light coming through the window, and the quiet sound of a human making breakfast. She blinked at the ceiling, and for a strange moment, forgot she was an alien on a foreign world. Liam was outside chopping wood, the sun warm on his face. His cabin stood proud despite broken windows and scattered wires from the night before. The battle had passed, but the scent of fire still floated in the air, and yet the forest breathed. Again, alive, calm, healing, Arixa stepped outside, barefoot, her steps light, her posture softer. She watched him work, his movements steady and human, so simple, yet strong in a way her world never taught. He looked up, smiled, and said, "You sleep like rock." She tilted her head. "Rock don't sleep," he laughed, surprised, and she blinked, not at the sound, but at the feeling it gave her. Warm, strange, but not unpleasant. Was this ... joy? That day was not about survival. They fixed broken windows together. Liam showed her how to use a hammer, and she showed him how to climb trees without breaking a branch. He tried to teach her how to cook, but she burned the eggs and almost set the pan on fire. She didn't understand the joke, but she laughed anyway, and Liam stared for a moment, stunned. This fierce warrior girl, once ready to bite his throat, now giggling over a ruined breakfast. It was like watching winter turn into spring. Later, they sat outside under the shade of a tree. Arixa held a feather in her fingers, fascinated by its softness. "Why do birds fly?" she asked. Liam shrugged. "Maybe they're not meant to stay in one place." Arixa looked up, her eyes shining. "I never fly because I want to," she said slowly. "Only because they order." He looked at her for a long moment, then reached out and gently placed his hand over hers. "No one gives you orders here," he said. "Not anymore." She didn't pull her hand away. That small touch, so human, so gentle, meant more than 1,000 missions. In her world, touch was pain, command, control. Here it was comfort. At night, Liam brought out a dusty telescope and pointed it at the stars. He showed her constellations, told her human stories. Orion the hunter, the twin brothers, the endless bear. Arixa listened with wide eyes, her mouth slightly open. "My people never name stars," she whispered. "Only targets." He looked at her face, glowing under the starlight, and said, "Then maybe you should name one." She pointed to a bright one near the edge of the sky and said, "That one is mine." He nodded. "Then it shall be called Arixa." She smiled, and this time, it wasn't broken or bitter, it was real. But peace is never meant to last for those running from war. Just before midnight, while Arixa slept and Liam read an old book, a low sound echoed in the distance. Not thunder, not wind. A low hum. Deep and cold, Liam stepped outside, heart sinking. Far above, hiding behind clouds, a massive ship floated in silence. No lights, no noise, only a shadow large enough to block the stars. Inside the ship, soldiers stood in perfect lines, weapons ready. A new order had been given: bring back the asset or burn the planet. Liam didn't see the ship, not yet, but the animals did. Birds flew away. Deer ran from the forest. The air felt heavy, as if the world was holding its breath. Inside, Arixa sat up suddenly. Her eyes wide, she felt it. The storm was coming. And this time, it wasn't just her they wanted. It was everything around her. Asterisk at 2:03 a.m., the stars disappeared. Not one by one, but all at once, swallowed by something massive. Liam stepped out of the cabin, looked up, and saw nothing but darkness in the sky. No moon, no light, no sound. Thick and heavy. Then the ground began to shake. Not like an earthquake, but like something above the earth was pulling at it. In the distance, trees bent with no wind. The air became hard to breathe. And then, they saw it. The Zarthuk warship, shaped like a knife and the size of a city, dropped from the clouds without a sound. It didn't roar. It didn't flash. It simply hovered, quiet and deadly. Lights blinked across its surface like eyes scanning everything. A voice echoed from the sky, deep and mechanical. "A RX-19, surrender." Arixa froze at the sound. They didn't call her Arixa. They called her the number, the tool she used to be. Liam turned to her. "What do we do?" She didn't answer, because inside her mind, the walls were cracking. Old memories crashed like waves. Training, pain, silence, control. She stepped forward, looked up and shouted, "I'm not an RX-19 anymore." But the sky didn't care. The voice replied, "Then Earth dies." 4 transport ships broke off from the main vessel, each filled with Zarthuk soldiers. They fell toward the ground like angry comets. Liam grabbed Arixa's arm. "We run." She pulled away, her eyes hard. "No," she said. "They follow me forever. If I go, they leave Earth." Liam shook his head. "You think monsters leave because you ask nicely?" She paused. She didn't know, because kindness wasn't part of her training. But Lean was right. Monsters never stop. They had to fight, together, one last time inside the cabin. Liam opened a metal box under the floor. Inside was an old MP bomb, something his father built during his time in the army. He looked at Arixa. "If we can plant this in their core ship, we fry their systems." Arixa nodded. "Then we hit the heart." They packed quickly. Weapons, tools, the Bomb and 2 tiny locket-sized cameras. If we don't make it, Liam said. Someone should know what happened here. Arixa stared at him. We make it, she said. Or they fall with us. As they moved through the forest, the first wave of soldiers dropped from the sky. They weren't robots. They were worse, tall, armored beings with glowing blue eyes and blades for arms. They moved like shadows, fast and without mercy. Arixa didn't run. She leapt at the first one with full force, spinning, striking, dodging. Liam followed with his shotgun. Shooting and ducking behind trees, together. They cut through the first wave like fire through dry leaves. But more kept coming. Too many, too fast. Arixa grabbed Liam's wrist and shouted. Now! They sprinted toward the crash site of one of the transport ships. Smoke poured from the wreck. Bodies lay twisted on the ground. Inside, they found a working console, still connected to the mothership system. This is our door, Liam said, placing the EMP device and linking wires. Arixa held off another attacker at the entrance, breathing heavy, blood on her face. Time ticked. 5 minutes until detonation. Liam looked at her. We can't be here when it blows. She nodded but didn't move. Go, she said. You saved me, now save yourself. No, Liam growled. I didn't come this far to leave you. They stared at each other, warrior and human. Alien and friend. Then she said quietly, if we fall together. He smiled. Sad but proud. Yeah, he said. Together. They ran as the timer counted down. The forest behind them lit with red and blue flashes. Explosions ripped through the ground, and the sky opened with fire. Above, the warship began to shake, its lights blinking wildly. Inside the ship, the power grid failed. Alarms screamed. The Zarthuk commander watched the systems go black, and for the first time, a machine felt fear, a mile away. Arixa and Liam dove into a cave just before the blast. The ground trembled, trees snapped, and the ship above cracked like a dying star. Smoke covered the forest and everything went silent. For a long time, nothing moved. Then a hand reached from the dust. Arixa crawled out slowly, coughing, bleeding, but alive. Beside her, Liam groaned, still breathing. She looked at the sky, now clear again. The ship was falling, crashing into the ocean far beyond the trees. She smiled. Through the pain, they came for me, she whispered, but we sent them home. Ash fell from the sky like soft snow. The forest was quiet again, but this time, not in peace. This was the silence after a storm, the kind that carries loss, not calm. Trees burned in the distance. Smoke curled through the air, and the Zarthuk ship was gone. Liam lay in the grass, still breathing but unmoving. Blood stained his shirt, and one arm was twisted badly. Arixa knelt beside him, her hands shaking, her face cut and bruised. She had felt pain before, but not like this. This pain came from fear, not fear of dying, but fear of losing him. Liam, she whispered, her voice cracking like dry ice. His eyes fluttered, weak but alive. You did it, he said, with a crooked smile. You stopped them. She nodded slowly, tears mixing with the dirt on her face. He raised a hand and touched her cheek. You're not a weapon, he said softly. You're someone. She leaned into his touch like a child searching for warmth. No one had ever told her that before, not once in her whole life. Not a soldier, not a number, not a monster. Someone. Hours passed, and she dragged him back to the cabin. Step by step, breath by breath, she treated his wounds with what little she knew. He taught her before. Now she used those lessons with care. She sat by his side as he rested, watching his chest rise and fall like a rhythm that meant hope. Days went by. The forest began to heal itself, green fighting its way back through black. Ash, the birds returned, cautious but curious, and Arixa, once the fierce alien girl, now watered plants, mended wooden walls, and learned to cook eggs without burning them. She smiled more often now. Not wide, not loud, but real, sometimes at night. Liam would find her sitting outside, watching the stars. He'd ask her what she was thinking, and she'd always say the same thing, about flying. But she didn't mean flying to run. She meant flying free. One morning, a small spacecraft landed nearby, human-made this time, sent by a secret Earth agency. They had picked up the Zarthic energy spike weeks ago and came searching. They found the ruins, the data, and finally, Arixa and Liam. They asked questions, took samples, offered help. Liam answered calmly, leaving out the parts they didn't need to know. But Arixa didn't speak at all. She simply watched them with quiet eyes, eyes that had seen war, kindness, and change. Before they left, one of the agents looked at her and asked, "Who ... are you?" Arixa looked at Liam, then back at the stars, and for the first time, she answered without fear. "I'm Arixa," she said, "and I choose who I am." The agents left without pushing. They understood something rare had happened here, something they couldn't file in a report. Something not built by science or weapons, but by one human heart and one alien soul. That night, Liam found a small wooden carving on the table. It was shaped like a cat, small, fierce, and sitting proudly on the bottom. Arixa had carved one word in shaky English, "Home." He smiled, and outside, Arixa curled up on the porch bench, staring at the stars again. The warrior was still inside her, sharp, fast, deadly. But now, beside that warrior, lived something new. Something soft, careful, curious, like a kitten learning the world again. But make no mistake, if the Zarthic ever returned, if anyone tried to hurt her home, the galaxy would hear her roar.